brother. It's time for another episode of Birds with Friends. Just a trio of feathery brethren weathering any season to see the Eagles eating teams like Scrammy's top with cheese. It's Philadelphia. Bo, Sheila, and Zach kicking it cooler than 3 penguins till Zach runs off with his valet keys. He's a real nuanced goose. Pull up a branch, get loose. It's time for some juice on some Birds with Friends. The early bird gets the worm, but prefers getting turned like a turn on some Birds with Friends. Bo, Sheila, and Zach coming at you with stats and things flapping their wings on.
Do you think Jack Del Rio's not going to go to the bar and get a drink and then come back and run his meeting? Give me a break.
I can't speak to what Jack Del Rio's going to do, but what I can tell you is
Marissa,
is that,
let's make that the drop.
But what I can tell you is,
hello everybody, and welcome to the post-game podcast edition of Birds with Friends. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman, Marissa Morris, and maybe we should call it the post-Carson Wentz era edition of Birds with Friends. Are we that far yet? We will talk about the Eagles benching Carson Wentz on the second drive of the second half. Jalen Hurts coming in, providing a bit of a spark. And we will unpack what that means now, what it means next week, what it means moving forward. I guess we'll talk a little bit about another game that was pretty much like every other game of this Eagles season until that benching came. Zach, how are you? I know you've been waiting for like something different to happen. Well, we have something different.
that is true. We have something different this week. We have something different coming up. And really, I think this is going to color the rest of the season, frankly. You know, there's 4 games left. And this decision, the move they made today, they've been resistant to it. You know, they've been reluctant to make that change. And they opened the door to the quarterback controversy. And the fact that Jalen Hurts, that the offense looked better with him, it could change so much. Doug Peterson was non-committal, or he did not commit to a starter one way or the other. And he said he needs to review things, but clearly this is a question that is not going away.
Nor should it. I mean, here we go. Buckle up. This is it. 4 games left in the season. Will it be Jalen Hurts in perpetuity for this season, or will they go back to Carson Wentz? I mean, let's get into it. Why don't you paint the scene of what happened, when it happened, and what Doug Peterson, Carson Wentz, and Jalen Hurts said about it after the game.
Sure. So as we all saw, the first half was no different than the first half than the way they've played in previous weeks. They got off to a somewhat encouraging drive early on, mainly with the running game, right? And then the offense just stalled. Carson was sacked, 4 times or 3 times in the first half? The 10th consecutive game that he's been sacked at least 3 times. The offense couldn't get anything going. They ended the half with 3 points. They've had 12 combined points now the past 4 first halves.
That's awful.
So it just continued looking bad. And the subplot was, are they going to make this change? The same conversation we had last week. The
right.
Same conversation that happened that came up in the Cleveland game and in the Dallas game. But it's just been amplified and pronounced even more. And then a little under 8 minutes in the second half.
After
the third
the Packers
quarter,
had scored to go up 20-3 to
a
make
99-yard drive.
Right.
Yes, they put Jalen Hurts in the first play of the drive. Carson Wentz is on the sideline. They keep Jalen Hurts in the next play, and it becomes clear that this is Jalen Hurts' drive, and they get some momentum going. There was a holding penalty, as we all saw.
Ticky-tack.
Yeah, I don't need to go through the play-by-play here, but essentially Doug Peterson said after the game that he felt the offense needed a spark. That's why he did it. And he was asked at one point, you've needed a spark before. What made tonight different?
That's a bit of a third person. Aren't you the one who asked that question?
I was, but this is not about us. This is about the people involved, right?
Yeah, he was asked. I mean, he was asked by you.
Yes, he was asked by me, and he made it was an interesting answer. He said that in previous games, he didn't feel it was one guy he didn't feel was on the quarterback. And the implication was that he felt tonight was on the quarterback. And right. The halftime report, I forget the sideline reporter's name. I apologize. But was it Jen Latta?
I don't know.
That
Was it Tracy Wolfson?
I think it was Jen Latta.
There you go.
But I think, but she was ESPN. No,
she's ESPN.
Yes, she was ESPN one. I was watching that this morning.
Yeah, I was watching that this morning.
Yeah, so I apologize. I have it all mixed up. There's been a lot going on today. But the sideline reporter, said that Doug said that coming out of the half that it's not on the offensive line. Carson needs to get rid of the ball, right? So that was Doug putting it on Carson. So Doug makes his decision. The offense is invigorated, and thereafter, Doug kept Jalen Hurts in, and Jalen Hurts would finish the game. Carson said that all that was explained to him was Jalen was going in for the next play, the next drive. He didn't know everything about it. He was honest in the sense that he said he was disappointed. Yet he, as a competitor, his personality, he wants to be out there, but it is what it is. And
we'll get to that because I want to know if you were surprised that Carson talked, but we can get to that after.
Okay. Yeah. And then Jalen Hurts brought them down on their first touchdown drive later in the game and made a very nice touchdown pass to Greg Ward. On that first drive, he had a nice pass to Jalen Reagor. Touchdown pass to Greg Ward. Showed more juice than Carson had shown in weeks, frankly. I don't think that's hyperbole.
I mean, that completion to Reagor was better than any throw Carson's made this year, except for maybe like the touchdown pass to Fulgham against the Niners.
And like the week one throw to Reagor, maybe. That's been a long time. No, you're right. And then Jalen Reagor, he brings the punt back, and all of a sudden the Eagles are in this game, right? And Hurts goes out with a chance to tie it or take the lead, and it did not happen. And then he ended up throwing an interception. But overall, I thought Jalen gave them life, showed something that wasn't there, and clearly this is
Jalen Mills, of course, you're talking about.
Well, it's funny.
Never question Jalen. You can't question Jalen Mills' effort.
No, but I wasn't looking up at who was on the screen, and then I heard Jalen, thanks for taking the time, and all of a sudden I like perk up on my seat because I'm like, is this Jalen Hurts? And I'm like, oh no, Jalen Mills is following Doug Peterson.
So I think it was definitely instructive that the offense looked much better with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. And to the people who have been, defending Carson Wentz, as he is not really the one who is most at fault here. It's the offensive line. It's the wide receivers. Certainly those things are factors, but it was instructive to see someone being quarterback, not playing like the worst quarterback in the league. And that's not to say that Jalen Hurts was great in this game, but the offense moved. Now you can say that part of that is because the Packers were in a bit of a prevent defense at that point. But I think anybody who has watched, who has been forced to watch the Eagles offense this season could tell that the offense looked different with Jalen Hurts there. And it would not have looked so productive the way that Carson Wentz was playing. Listen, this is disastrous, generally speaking, for the Eagles organization, that you are in a position where you rightfully, and maybe even too late, have to bench your star quarterback before his, $120 million extension even kicks in next season.
When you put it that way, it's pretty interesting.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But at some extent, to some extent, that stuff is a sunk cost, and you need to find out if Jalen Hurts is something. It's only going to be if they do indeed hand the keys to Jalen Hurts, and we'll get to this because I don't think there should be any question. I think Jalen Hurts should start next week. He should start the final 4 games of this season because there's a good chance, as we've said, that this team is going to have a top 5, top 7 draft pick in a draft loaded with quarterbacks, and they need to know if they should be considering those quarterbacks, and they need to know if Jalen Hurts is good enough or looks good enough that they can afford to eschew that, knowing how important it is to find a franchise quarterback. That is the most important thing you can do. They thought they had it solved. I think they've learned that they didn't have it solved. And, we'll get into what you can do with Carson Wentz and how that timetable starts. But to me, do you disagree that it should now be Jalen Hurts' time for the last 4 games?
I think practically speaking, if you're just looking at it based on merit, based on who should be out there, then yeah, sure. I do believe Hurts should be out there Sunday, but it's a loaded question. And if you
Of course
say,
it is. And it's the loaded question that they brought upon
Invited,
themselves,
absolutely.
that they
Yes.
invited. It's a
And
question of their own creation.
if you're operating under the premise that Carson Wentz is the franchise guy and he's going to be the starter next year, like this is what they're planning for, then you can make a conceivable, or I guess you can make the argument that this gave Carson a chance to back up, reset. We made that move. Let's see how Carson does now with fresh eyes, with the fact that we went there. That's not the argument I would make, but look, Doug Peterson said from 2016 that he's married to Carson Wentz, right? That was one of the first things he said. This, one would think this is a reflection of Doug, what's happened with Carson. The organization made this commitment to Carson Wentz. If you bench Carson Wentz for the New Orleans game, and I guess if you do it for Sunday, you're doing it for the rest of the season, right? You're not just seesawing them in and out, probably. I imagine. So if you're doing that, then what does that say about Carson's future? Because I kept thinking, and maybe I'm wrong here, but that their approach is going to be to try to fix Carson, not to try to get rid of Carson.
Well, let's get into that because the contract is onerous, and there are certain benchmarks in there. There are 10 polls where the Eagles have to make a decision early because on the third day of the league year, Carson Wentz gets another roster bonus. So if the Eagles are going to move on from Carson Wentz, basically what they have to do this offseason, cutting him is a non-starter because it's like $50 million of dead money. And even if you do a post-June 1st, it probably doesn't make sense. It would make more sense to wait. But if you are able to find a suitor who wants to trade for Carson Wentz, you can do it before the third day of the league year, and you only, and we say only, but you are only eating about $30 million of dead money, but you're also getting out of the commitments in future years, so it's not that bad. And for the acquiring team, it wouldn't be such a terrible contract because some of the bonus, the guarantees have already been paid out, so it would be sort of like the Teddy Bridgewater contract. Maybe there's another team that thinks they can fix Wentz, and Foles was traded for a 4th round pick last year. I think Wentz would fetch a little bit more than that. Jason Fitzgerald at over the cap, you thought it might be like a 3rd round pick. I think you could, it's possible you could do even better. I don't know how many suitors would be out there. Indianapolis is sort of the obvious one with Frank
I don't want
Reich.
to put words in your mouth here though, but it seems as if you're operating under the premise that what Carson is this year is who he is.
I mean, you could say that that's recency bias, but what like how else would you view him?
You can say if
another team's going to trade for him, they would be thinking that he's not, but
sure. That like what's the alternative? Is Jalen Hurts' ceiling higher than Carson Wentz's ceiling for the rest of the career?
Probably not. Well, I don't know.
And
I don't really believe that there's a chance we'll see Carson Wentz's ceiling again.
Well, if that's what you feel, then you need to move on a year too soon than a year too late, right?
Well, and I think the situation with Wentz in Philadelphia is already sort of corrosive, don't you?
That's the other dynamic there, and then you say, do you hire the next coach planning to fix it? Is it the type of thing that you change a few things around him? Because look, Carson's been not just bad this year, like historically bad, or he's been, there is no rationalization or justification for the way he is playing. That being said, it's hard to find good quarterbacks. All right. And if you think Carson's a mediocre quarterback, it's easy to find mediocre quarterbacks. Right. So if this is who Carson is, you move on, you eat the money, and you try to strike gold with someone else. I don't know if Jalen Hurts is that guy, but like you said, if you have a top 10 pick and you believe in this year's draft, and maybe you're not there for Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, but if you think Zach Wilson or you think Trey Lance can be that type of player, how often are you drafting?
That would be Trey Lance.
Yeah, exactly. How often are you drafting that high? So
right,
that case can be made, and to me, there's really only two options that the Eagles can have here. They can just commit to Carson. They can say, we're going to do everything we can to get Carson right next year, or they can move on. But this idea that you bring Carson and Jalen Hurts back and have them compete, I don't know what that accomplishes. Like to me, all that does is continue the not knowing, right? Like,
but if you bring, but you can't commit to Carson Wentz and not make him compete with Jalen Hurts next year at this point.
Sure you could. You can say he's our guy. You can say last year was bad. There were a lot of factors there. We've spent the offseason rectifying it, whether it's a coaching change, whether it's a play calling change. Carson's our guy. Now, I'm not saying that's the right path, but I'm saying you can make that claim based on the organizational commitment to Carson Wentz, right? Like when they signed that contract to Carson Wentz,
I think it would send such a terrible message to the team if Jalen Hurts isn't allowed to even compete for the job next year.
I mean, look,
you say this guy's getting paid this much, so that's it. Even though he was awful last year, he's going to be the quarterback. That would be terrible.
That position is different than every other position. I mean,
but not anymore. The seal has been broken. Pandora's box has been opened.
Today, you mean, or just in general?
Today,
this
today
is it.
This is the delineation. There's no going back from today, and we've been saying that it should have been coming sooner. But now that the seal has been broken, that's it.
So let's back up there. So then, why do you think the seal was broken today? Do you think Doug had enough of it? Do you think that they sat there this week and said, we'll give Carson one half, or we'll see how Carson's playing? Like, I wanted to know more after the game about that.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's not going to tell us that stuff. But
sure.
Yeah, I think after like being close to the edge the past couple of weeks, they decided this week, and I'm sure that I would be shocked if Jeffrey Lurie wasn't on board with this, that if it gets to that point again, like, you are emboldened to make that decision.
That's a fair point. Like, I don't disagree with you. But the timing of it is interesting, like I said, because there have been 5 other potential inflection points in the season where you could have easily said they should go to Jalen Hurts here, right? They didn't do it to start the second half. Like, what happened at that moment that they said, all right, we've reached our tipping point? I'm curious about that. And then the other thing too is do you think, and we'll find this out probably in the next 24 to 48 hours, because you're saying your opinion is that Jalen Hurts needs to start next Sunday. But do you think inside the building the idea was, well, let's reset Carson, or do you think the idea was, let's make a change?
I think the idea was, let's try to win. Like, let's see if we can win this game or do what we can do this season. I think it was a short-term move to bench Carson, but
we spent the first 20 minutes of the show talking about long-term decisions, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's all intertwined, and
it's a long-term decision.
I think that Jalen Hurts gives them the best chance to win right now, and I think the best thing to do long-term is to see what Jalen Hurts is over the next 4 games. So I think the incentives align for what the Eagles should do. Now, I'm less I do think it is possible that they will start Carson Wentz this week. I think that would be tough to defend, given that Hurts, moved the offense better than Wentz did. I think, Doug said, like, he gave Jalen Hurts that series, and then once they looked good on that series, he decided he was going to give him the rest of the game. I don't think when he put him in, he was saying this is the quarterback for the rest of the year, but he was certainly opening up the possibility that would be the case. And I think the way that game played out, you can't like, it would be a hard sell for Hurts to have looked that much better and then to now go back to Wentz.
He certainly didn't really articulate it one way or the other post game. Like, Doug, no, I understand he just lost the game. He's not thinking big picture after the game. It's their fourth loss in a row. They're 3-8-1, first losing season or first non-winning season, I should say, since 2016. But like Doug didn't strike me as someone who approached that lectern with this idea that I'm going to send like the big picture organizational a message right now. He was just like, yeah, we wanted a spark. But all the questions were about, what does this mean? What are you doing? And he was so micro focused on that game.
What do you think micro has to do with this?
I knew that joke was coming once I said micro. And I tried to enunciate.
Because I already made it when you called me earlier today.
Yes, but I tried to enunciate micro, so it didn't come off as micro.
Yeah, the former offensive coordinator.
It
all comes together. Like the coaching staff is it's boring offense. It is related to Mike Rowe.
And like it's the thing about it too, and we've discussed this when we've talked about the possibility that this could happen. We always said that the Kevin Cobb example from 2008 is not entirely apt because Cobb looked just as bad or worse than McNabb. Like if Hurts came out tonight and just looked completely overwhelmed out there, then clearly the issues are everything around Carson, right?
Well, no, clearly, I don't think that
potentially.
But yeah, you could. That's an easier sell.
Yes, but the fact that Jalen did provide some juice there lends credence to the theory that Carson's not right. You know, whether it's a lack of confidence, whether it's he's lost something athletically, he's not what he needs to be, right? And that's affecting the offense. So it's the quarterback changes a lot. And I think we saw that. Not to say Jalen Hurts was lights out, but
he was moved the ball. Quicker decisions.
Exactly. He was moving. He adds the running element, and not just that, but like his passes were better, right?
Yes.
Right. Like he was, yeah.
Not even a question.
Ball, yeah. Like the Dallas got the biggest play of the game was the Dallas Goedert, or the longest play of the game for the Eagles was the Dallas Goedert play. And that could have been a touchdown.
Just hanging in the air. Yeah.
It was poor ball placement.
Step into that and fire it, and you might have a touchdown.
Exactly. So what you saw with Hurts was just someone who was more decisive out there. Now, I was critical. For full disclosure here, I was critical on draft night, not just of the pick, but of the not just the evaluation, but the evaluation of the player, because. I didn't know I didn't think there was enough evidence in college that he could be a top level quarterback in the NFL. And you really need to develop the passing part of it. Well,
I don't think you need to apologize for that take. I mean, the chances are, and that's part of why it's important to see him. Like the odds are that he is not going to be a, top 20 even starting quarterback in the NFL. That's we went back and did it on draft night. The quarterbacks drafted in the second round. Yeah. Like Drew Lock. If he's Drew Lock, that's like a better than 50th percentile outcome for Jalen Hurts.
But and that's my whole point about the thought of getting Carson right is that I think there's a better chance of Carson being that quarterback than Jalen Hurts being that quarterback.
That's probably true. That's probably true, but maybe not given what we've seen this season.
Sure.
And so you need to see like if Jalen Hurts has a little special in him. It's better for them short term. It's better for them long term to get the information and the knowledge about what Jalen Hurts looks like, because that's going to better inform their decisions this offseason. Because if Jalen Hurts you need to see what Jalen Hurts is like, and if he's bad, then you can reevaluate, should we recommit to Carson and do what we can to bring people in who are going to make him look good. All of the important decisions that need to be made this offseason will be better informed with 4 games of Jalen Hurts than just seeing Carson Wentz be as bad as we've seen him be already. And there's very little reason to expect we would see anything different from Carson at this point.
particularly this season. Yes.
Right.
Like I don't think if the thought was, well, we gave Carson almost a half to reset, right? Like we made the move. Now we're going to put him back in with fresher eyes. I don't think that has as much validity. Like I think what you've seen from Carson this year is what you're going to get this year. Now that's not to say that it could look different next year with an offseason, with expected changes on the coaching staff, with Carson doing some soul searching perhaps.
Right.
But I don't think all of a sudden he shows up against the Saints and looks like McNabb against the Cardinals. I don't think these are parallel situations.
I agree with that. So what do you think they will do this week?
I think they're going to go to Hurts. I think if they were going back to Carson, Doug would have said that tonight.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think
I think you're right. Once you open it up.
If the plan was just to reset Carson, that's what you say. The easiest answer to that question. Well, I guess the easiest answer is what Doug answered, that I need to look at the film. I need to evaluate it. But look, a decision like this can't be based on like a few drives out there. It's a big picture decision about your offense, about the most important player on the team. And so I think
when you said that when you relayed what he said, it's true. He was putting this on Wentz. He was saying in the past there have been other issues with the offense that haven't been just the quarterback. Whereas, you read between the lines, he was saying today it was just on the quarterback.
Exactly. It
was at least a little bit on Jason Peters
and the receivers, but no, it's clear.
I mean, we got to get to Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, but I'll just say to answer your question,
putting out a JJ.
Doug could have come out there and said, Carson's my guy, right? We made this move. We were trying to get a spark. We thought this was the best thing to win tonight, but I am committed to Carson Wentz as my quarterback, right? He could say that and he could get ripped on it, but he's sending the message there that I'm behind Carson. And this was a move just made for tonight. But the fact that he said we need to evaluate the tape, and I can't think about that right now. I need to look at the injuries. Like, I think that's just him. The fact that if there's something to think about, then it's Hurts, unless it's not his decision to make.
Yeah, that's possible. Marissa, you also do the Jets podcast. Which one was more depressing? The start of this or that one?
That's tomorrow morning, but I have a feeling Eagles fans that will be more depressing. So
that makes sense.
Get worse.
Yeah, Connor's not dedicated enough to write and do a podcast on the same day. That makes sense.
No, he's doing TV tonight, man. He's got
priorities.
Yeah, he's big time.
I will have to say,
we're on YouTube. He's on that. He's on.
Hey, there's a lot of people on this YouTube stream watching you guys right now.
I have offers to be on TV. I turn them down so I can be with you.
And all the listeners. There was a really funny comment that said, "I'm missing 90 Day Fiance for this, so you better bring the heat."
You can't just DVR that bad boy. Marissa, can we get a mug check?
So it's actually my smoothie with my giant straw. I will admit that this straw, I've replaced the giant
big
mug
straw with a giant straw.
Yeah.
Sheil's gonna want me to ask what's in your smoothie.
Almond
For those
milk.
of you who don't know, Sheil is Sheil Kapadia, an occasional part-time host, co-host of Birds with Friends.
I was hoping to join us today
Sheil's Sundays are. Yeah, Sheil's a national reporter.
The Chiefs are losing right now, so he's got some.
I'm not saying
Sheil's not watching this game. That's a problem.
Last week was different. Last week he had nothing better to do. This week he's got better stuff to do. I'm just saying there might be people who are tuning in who aren't familiar with Sheil. That's all.
By the way, I was scrolling through the comments. Just want to answer a quick question. Yes, I am holding my mic. The reason is Marissa texted me or messaged me saying that it wasn't picking up my sound well. So
yeah, it was a little echoey. So this is for you guys. So he's sacrificing holding the mic.
That's why I'm holding the mic.
Yeah.
And
it sounds better.
There are comments about the sweatshirt.
You're a very committed company man.
I am proud of the Athletic, but this is coincidental that it's the backdrop. I changed the backdrop a few weeks ago, and I was wearing the sweatshirt. And
bring back the mirror.
And I've been we got off the press conferences 90 minutes or 60 minutes before the show. I spoke to you. I tried to listen back to stuff real quickly. Just checked social media, but like didn't have time to really think about what I was wearing for the show. So
I think it looks good. I like the athletic and the athletic
all
background.
right, I appreciate that.
It looks like you are like coming into us from like the void of athletic headquarters, like if it was out in space or something like that.
Fair enough.
I don't know. Just something. Well, you said you went back and listened. What did you glean from Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts? And were you surprised that Carson Wentz spoke after the game?
A little bit.
And whose decision? Who do you think makes that decision?
I think the PR staff and Carson together.
I feel like Carson himself has to, has to greenlight that he's willing to talk.
I think no, I wouldn't expect. I mean, I would hope, but I wouldn't expect that Carson talks to us every week if he's demoted, right? Like that would be wonderful from our perspective to have the chance to still talk to him. But
yeah, I'm sure
I
that
don't
will
know
not be the case.
I don't know if that's the case. But no, I think Carson understands his role as the franchise quarterback, right? And I think that he had a few opportunities tonight to.
I had something stuck in my teeth this entire thing, and I finally just started loose. Pretty exciting stuff.
What was dinner tonight? That it was
a leftover sandwich.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah,
very nice. So
it should be smooth sailing from here on out.
Good. Glad to hear that. So no, he had the opportunity to be honest about. He was asked one question from Rob Motti. Do you think the organization hasn't done enough this year to support you? And I don't know if that was a reference to
call him Rob the Body Motti.
The some of the picks that were made or some of the decisions that were made building the roster. He didn't like directly say no. What he said is that, look, I don't have the quote in front of me. I should have probably pulled it up, but he basically said he's not pointing fingers. He knows he needs to play better.
I think that's a fine answer.
Yeah,
I saw some people getting upset about that. Like
exactly.
He's throwing him under the bus. It was a totally fine answer.
I thought that was a fine answer. I thought he was honest with his emotions about getting benched. Right.
Right.
I thought he was honest about that.
And also, like they haven't given him good support on the team
in terms of the roster in the offensive. Now Brandon Brooks getting hurt and Andre Dillard getting hurt, like that wasn't. They did not plan for the offensive line to look like this, but look, I mean, you plan and it just you can't always go based on the plans. I was butchering an expression.
You can't always get what you want.
No, I was gonna say, I was gonna say you plan and God laughs, but I didn't necessarily want to evoke that with Carson, right? So
I see.
No, as I was saying,
it's a classic Jerry Falwell quote. Throwing him on the bus there.
No. So he was also asked. Well, there was a report, I believe, from Jay Glazer on Fox Sports today that there's a belief in the organization that the Jalen Hurts pick has affected Carson. That it affected his confidence in his performance. Doug Peterson was asked fairly pointedly, do you think it's affected him? Because he has to look over his shoulder. Mm-hmm. And Doug did not say yes or no. Doug said, I can't put myself in Carson's shoes. And said Carson's been a professional. But basically that's saying that's a question to ask Carson. So Carson was asked that tonight. And he said that he wasn't one to look. He said, no, it's not affecting his performance. He wasn't one to look over his shoulder. But clearly, like, this has been, and we said this at the top, this was not a media created situation. This was an organization created situation, right? And yes. I tweeted this out and I talked about it on the pod. I really genuinely think the organization only focused on two outcomes here. Carson plays well and there's no reason to play Jalen Hurts, or Carson gets hurt and all of a sudden they look clairvoyant for having this insurance policy. I don't think they foresaw the scenario that Shield wrote about after the Jalen Hurts pick, which was Carson's messed up from it.
And that's so dumb because it was everyone's first reaction. This is not second guessing. It was the first thing that everybody thought.
Sure.
Was like, what kind of dynamic are you creating here? And you better be right about that. And boy, were they wrong. And I think it was. I think it all goes back, and it's funny because the Giants won today, and their backup was Claps and Thrappin. But I think it all goes back to that. They were obsessed with getting a cheap backup quarterback to counterbalance having to pay the quarterback. And, they decided, Thrippy fails as a 5th round pick. We better pull the trigger earlier. This is something we've been trying to get. And they do it in the 2nd round on Hurts. And, you create this situation. Now, if it turns out that Jalen Hurts is great or is even like a top half of the league starting quarterback, that's a fine outcome. You did well there. If you can unload Wentz for, a reasonable pick, that's fine. But I think you're right. I don't think that was their intention, that Jalen Hurts was going to steal the job from Carson Wentz.
And like you said, and you're absolutely right, that it was everyone's first reaction. I think the organization looked at it like, we paid this guy $127 million. We stuck with him over the Super Bowl MVP. We let the Super Bowl MVP go. We've
very graciously they decided that it's best for him. We really appreciate what he did. We're going to give him the gift of getting to choose his next destination.
But we've like catered to you in so many ways, and this
and not that many ways. I mean, they didn't cater to him in that many ways. They signed him to a market deal, which seemed like a fine deal at the time because you were getting out ahead of it. But it's not like they totally set things up for him.
I think behind the scenes they've really tried to accommodate Carson in a lot of ways.
But not with the roster building.
No, so I don't think they viewed and it was their own either a narrow-mindedness or ignorance. I don't think they viewed a scenario where either Carson wouldn't play well or Carson wouldn't feel appreciated by the organization.
Well, that was dumb.
Sure. Like this outcome, I refer to it as door number 3. This outcome is like the worst outcome that the organization could have imagined. Him getting hurt, you never want someone to get hurt, but like him getting hurt would make the organization look, as I said, like they were more prepared than what's happening now, which is they didn't know when to go to Jalen Hurts. They're in this situation where I can't emphasize enough. They did not foresee Carson looking bad.
Well, nobody foresaw Carson Wentz being the worst quarterback in the league through 12 games. I mean, I don't blame them for not thinking that was a possibility to happen this quickly, but this outcome was always on the table. And even if it was the case where, Carson Wentz gets injured, then there's still the possibility that Jalen Hurts comes in and looks better than Wentz did. And you're still, fomenting this quarterback controversy. So it's not like it's not like that even in door 2, there wasn't, another side door to door number 3. Like this was all still on the table.
Sure.
Of their own creation again.
Yes. And so that needs to be all part of this evaluation, is like that they created this.
Yeah, of course. This is entirely their own doing.
And that's why I think that the view, and this is an educated opinion, that
flex.
That's a little flex. I didn't mean to. I think the view of Carson around the league is different than
Syracuse education.
No, not that. I think the view of Carson around the league is different than the view in Philadelphia right now, and probably the view on Birds with Friends right now. Like I think the view around the league is that,
as an educated man myself,
is that that there have been organizational failings from the roster around him to some of the coaching changes, to, like you said, or as we said, the Hurts pick, that if Carson is in a different situation, he looks much better. And
I agree with that.
So I
agree that is the perception.
Yes. And that's the calculation that the Eagles must make, whether it obviously definitely Jeffrey Lurie and presumably Howie Roseman, and maybe Doug Peterson. We don't know that, but that's the calculation they must make. Is there any way to get Carson right?
Well, there's a couple things I have to say about that in terms of the league-wide perception versus our perception. One is that's good news for the Eagles if you make the decision to move on and you think you can try to trade him this offseason, because it means you can get better than a third-round pick. Maybe you could even talk somebody into trading a first. You know who I've been thinking about as a possible landing spot for Carson Wentz?
Where?
The Patriots.
Really interesting.
Because they are going to be too far back,
mm-hmm.
and they still need a quarterback of the future. Just throwing it out there.
I mean, I think there are a handful of places out there. Now there are
Colts, Patriots.
Yeah, there are more like we said, there are 4 or 5 quarterbacks worthy of being taken in the first round this year, and if you include Mac Jones in that group. And there are veteran quarterbacks who are going to be on the move potentially. Matt Stafford.
Did you hear that?
Yeah,
Did you hear that Mac Jones is marrying into the Groh family?
I don't think there's a Groh. Oh, all right. This is a joke, right?
It's gonna be Matt Groh.
There is a Matt Groh, by the way.
There is a Matt.
Yes.
Or a Matt.
A Matt. There's a Matt Groh. Yes.
That's good, but it's not quite as good as Mac.
Yeah. Yeah. No, all right. That was one of those where I needed to see the joke from.
I feel like I telegraphed that one, like coming right down the middle. I can't believe you didn't see where I was going there.
But then, Matthew Stafford's going to be on the move, right? We'll see or I assume he's going to be on the move. Maybe Matt Ryan. I don't think so. They have so much money tied into him that I can't see that happening. There are other quarterbacks around the league. We'll see what happens with Cam Newton. We'll see what happens with Jimmy Garoppolo. We'll see what happens.
Darnold.
Yes.
Darnold.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marissa. Dynamite China. Sam Darnold's a big one here. So yeah, there are a lot of quarterbacks who would fit that category. But if you can get a good pick from Carson and you're not sure about Carson, then you take the pick and you eat the money.
The other thing that I will say about that perception around the league that Wentz is better off than we might think in Philadelphia. We heard the same thing in the summer, Zach, that the perception of the Eagles around the league or in the national media was much different than it was in the local media. That this is a team that's been to the playoffs 3 years in a row. They're in great shape. They've got a bunch of good players. And if, the biggest thing everybody's concerned about is the fourth defensive end, then maybe that's not a big deal. Well, guess what? We are closer to the situation. We're watching closer. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's possible that we know better. That's a great point, because you're absolutely right about that. And not to pat ourselves on the backs, but there was a handful of developments in this game where it's things we've been talking about that are blatantly obvious, and it still happens. Starting and you referenced it with Alshon Jeffrey, and just insane. The snaps that he's taken, just insane. And that's why it was kind of refreshing to see them go to Jalen Hurts in this game, because it was some confirmation that everything we're watching is not we're not making everything up. Because when you trot out Alshon Jeffrey out there and he's playing over Travis Fulgham, he's playing 60 to 70% of the snaps. He's looking like, the oldest man in the world out there. And you think to yourself, they are not watching the same thing. So it's almost divorced from reality, the way that they're going about things on the field. So for them to actually make the move to Hurts and admit that Carson Wentz has been so bad is at least a little bit refreshing to be like, oh, okay, we're not insane, or they're not insane. Yes. And Aaron Moorhead, we spoke to him Friday after the podcast, and he said that, and of course, Aaron Moorhead's the wide receivers coach, if anyone listening doesn't know, but I imagine everyone listening and watching. Yes. Al Snow, of course, a big fan of his. And he said that there's so much Alshon does that isn't reflected on the stat sheet. This used to be the Riley Cooper argument, right? And he mentioned
He mentioned Alshon's blocking and Alshon's spacing on routes.
I didn't hear him say his blocking. He's a terrible blocker.
Yeah, and his spacing on routes. So
just outrageous.
Found that to be interesting. And he said like they can't telegraph it with Alshon Jeffrey and John Hightower that whenever Alshon's in the game, he's running a route, or whenever Hightower's in the game, he's running deep.
Yeah, you don't need to force snaps to either of them.
But then there's no justification for like reducing Travis Fulgham's role in the offense. So there's that. We've talked about the Hurts thing.
I have been complaining a lot about the Fulgham thing because it drives me insane. 0 targets in the first half each of the last 3 weeks. He played a much lower percentage of snaps tonight. I'm pretty sure it was his lowest percentage of snaps since that San Francisco game when he first had his touchdown catch. Now, Travis Fulgham might just not be very good. It's definitely possible that that was this is clock hitting midnight on a pumpkin, and it turns out that he's just not that good. But there's still no excuse for him playing less than Alshon Jeffrey, who's not going to be here next year and isn't any good.
He's good right now.
We know that he's not good. We don't know for sure what Travis Fulgham is. Get him out there, find out what you have. There's a possibility. And we know that his upside is much higher than Alshon Jeffrey's. He's still the Eagles' leading receiver on the season by a long shot, and he has like 32 yards over the past 4 weeks.
You're absolutely right.
It's insane.
And I acknowledge the possibility at the time they activated Alshon that look, the last time he was on the the last time he finished the game was Miami last year, was as productive as he's been in years. He is worse than he's ever been right now. He's a complete non-factor out there.
He's a little bit better than he was 2 weeks ago when he pretended to jump on that interception.
The one play he made all day, he like pushed off and he knew it afterward. He didn't even like try to complain. Like he just smiled. Like he knew it was a clear penalty. So the Alshon decision, it's hard to justify. Actually, that was the second question tonight. And I thought Doug was going to be pumped for that question because it wasn't a Hurts question. And Doug was like, he took this few second pause and he's like, we've discussed this before. But they don't have a good answer for it, right? Like there's no, like just because the question's been asked doesn't mean that it just goes away. So that was one thing. I brought up the other day, and I've been harping on it. There's no reason to me why Jalen Reagor hasn't been returning punts this year. And I understand that he's had trouble catching, or that he's muffed punts or in practice in the Washington game. I get that, but part of the reason you drafted him, and this isn't like this isn't hyperbole. Part of the reason that you drafted him was because of how dynamic he is in the return game. Right. They mentioned that on the night they picked him when talking about the Reagor versus Justin Jefferson equation. And it's not like they have Deshaun Jackson. They've been sitting in for Greg Ward
would have taken that to the house too, as long as he had muffed it initially, and then he got to pick it up off the ground.
And so clearly he's returned 2 punts this year before tonight. And I understand he's missed games, but they've had Greg Ward as the primary returner, ostensibly because they trust that Greg Ward can catch the ball.
And he's not even good at that.
But you need some juice, like what Jalen Reagor showed tonight was what could have been on the field in all these situations earlier this year. I have a drive-through here.
Big flex. Somebody wanted to know my favorite laugh out loud moments from this game. The only one that I laughed out loud was when Wentz threw it to Miles Sanders and Miles Sanders slipped, because like their connection is just completely
all year
cursed this year. And also we have been properly what's the word I'm looking for? Castigated? Anyway, they're calling us out on the chat because we cut off Marissa when she was gonna give us her smoothie ingredients. I think actually you're the one who cut her off, Zach, but
I did.
We need to close the loop on that bad boy.
I apologize, Marissa.
I don't remember. It's okay. I told the chat. I typed it in there.
Oh, well, what about our listeners?
And they were all thrilled. Because I have cacao nibs in there, and they didn't know what that was. It's like an all natural chocolate. It's like the root of chocolate. So it's like less sweet. It's pretty bitter. but
root of all
it's
chocolate.
better than putting chocolate chips in a smoothie. It's healthier.
Okay.
I think Sheil does the cacao powder. I like the nibs better.
Okay.
But almond milk, a frozen
More
banana.
fun to say.
Yeah, cacao nibs,
Cacao nibs
peanut
is,
butter,
yeah.
and honey and ice. But yeah, frozen
Okay.
bananas really.
Yeah, you're the one with the frozen bananas.
Yeah, freezer's like filled
Okay.
with frozen bananas, and you don't waste them when they start to go brown. You have to take the skin off. Do not put it in your freezer, or else it will be disgusting. Put it in a bag, and then it's perfect for smoothies. Just taking Sheil's spot here. He's usually
Listen. He's not here, so he doesn't get to be the smoothie guy right now.
now.
Zach, you mentioned the Jalen Reagor punt return touchdown. That's a good transition to the most important part of this episode, and that is, of course, the Superstore casting check-in. Let's go through it. Bo had 3 irons in the fire tonight. A player with the last name Smith has a sack fumble for Green Bay. Unfortunately, did not hit on that one.
Well, wait. So you did get close.
I did?
Well, so it wasn't a sack fumble, but it was a sack. He got the sack and tipped it, and that's what the interception at the end of the game was.
You're right.
But that was Preston Smith. But yes, it did not hit the rules. There was a lot that were very close, but
There
I
were a
kept
lot that
an
were
extra
very
close
close.
eye after I missed that one last week. So
That's right. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, Marissa.
okay.
Chandon Sullivan has a 3rd down or 4th down pass breakup. A pass breakup in the end zone or an interception has to be credited in the official box score. This did not happen, unfortunately, as far as I know. And then there is a defensive or special teams touchdown in the game. So I got my 1. Zach, you had your most options of the season. You had 5 options. Alshon Jeffrey catches at least 3 passes. I think we know that did not happen. Devontae Adams has more receiving yards than the Eagles' top 2 pass catchers combined. I thought this was going to hit for you, but unfortunately, very close. Did not hit. 120.
I was so close.
121 to 123.
There you go.
So close. I did the math like 3 times.
A couple. The Ward had a catch at the end of the game that took this out for you. Ward and Goddard overtaking Devontae Adams. You had Travis Fulgham has more targets than the Packers have sacks. You did not hit that. Aaron Rodgers has a completion percentage of more than 80%. I thought for most of the game,
yes,
you're going to hit this, but it did not turn out your way.
Fourth quarter messed me up there.
Of 34. The Eagles will have 2 or more delay of game penalties. That did not happen. And Devontae Adams has more receiving yards than DK Metcalf did on Monday. So a tough 0 for 5 are you on some very tight ones. Sheil.
But he didn't waste all his turkeys on.
But you've still got 10 turkeys next week. He had a number he wanted to save. He hit his number.
That's why you do it, right?
Yep. Sheil had the Eagles run the ball more than 30 times. That definitely did not happen.
It was close.
I guess it was with Jalen Hurts. Yeah. So 25 rushes.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Elliott is perfect. Looked like he was going to hit this one, but Jake misses the extra point again. And then Devontae Adams has multiple touchdowns. He hits that. So a tie this week, which I believe makes it 3-3 to a half. But you've got the most turkeys next week, Zach. So you still got a fighting shot. And there's 4 weeks left.
4 weeks left.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna have the playoffs. So
probably not. We could do our own Superstore castings.
Yeah, we can watch a playoff game. Yeah,
there you go. Okay. I guess what else in this game would you like to talk about?
A few things.
We've exhausted the quarterback discussion for now, and of course we're going to have like the rest of the season to talk about it.
So do we need a Darius Slay discussion?
Sure.
Because look, now he came into the game injured. He had a calf injury, was questionable, played. But same thing as last week, right? He's here for these matchups.
Yeah.
He didn't win. He didn't win any of them. It seemed like he had
one
in
at the goal line.
Yeah. He had one at the goal line, but look, he wasn't good enough. Like it was.
Yeah, I mean, he's in tight coverage. It looks like it's good coverage,
Sure.
and he's not making the play on the ball.
Yeah.
Devontae Adams is awesome. These are the 2 best receivers in the league he's gone against, or at least 2 of the best 3 if you want to put.
Yeah, then they have DeAndre Hopkins 2 weeks from now, right? So like this is why he's here. He's not just here for. Absolutely. So now Avonte Maddox actually made.
Somebody said this, but it's telling that 4th and goal from the half-foot line the thing the Packers choose to do is throw the ball at the guy you just traded a third and a fifth and paid a big money to. Like that's what they thought was their best thing to do.
It's a valid point. I thought early in the game, and I texted you and Sheil both. I'm sorry, Marissa. I should put it on the Birds of Friends Slack messages.
Okay.
Sorry, you deal with like 10 teams though, so I don't want to overburden you. So I texted like every time, or I don't know why the Packers are even running the ball here, just because Aaron Rodgers was just lights out, and the Eagles were playing the run fairly well, and then in the fourth quarter,
and I told you it's because they knew they were going to win the game, so he just wanted it to be over as soon as possible. Yes,
which considering the fact that it's 10:30 and I haven't started writing yet, I would have appreciated that. So the game was still a one possession game. The offense sputters for the Eagles. Defense, which put together two good stands at that point, needed another one. I think it was a 2nd and 7. I don't have the sheet in front of me. Aaron Jones runs for 77 yards, and just like it was an insult to tackling. Right? They could not bring this guy down.
You're gonna lose me my fantasy matchup. Brutal.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But that was a pivotal play, right? And I mentioned this because Jim Schwartz can't come out and say, like, well, we bottled them up. We bottled them up except for that one play. It can't. These exceptions can't happen.
It's a 77-yard touchdown run. Yeah,
that ended the game. Ended the game.
Pathetic,
right? And I can see Schwartz having this rationalization that, look, they had the Packers at 23 points for, until there was, or for 56 minutes in the game or whatever, 58 minutes in the game. And then they let up one big run. He's saying, and that's not an excuse, but like that. You can't, that was a bad play that cost the game for that, or it didn't cost the game because they weren't winning. It cost them a chance to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I saw like, I think Joe Banner was saying like something like the Eagles defense is just as much of a problem as the offense, which I think is one of the silliest things I could think of. I mean, it's not even close. No one's winning anything this season with a top 5 defense. The Eagles defense has been middle of the road, which is probably fine considering their talent. The defense has been fine. The Eagles should be like, what do they play? 12 games? They should be 8-4 with this defensive performance, or 7-5 considering the schedule they've played. Like it's ridiculous.
But I still go back, and I think you and Sheil were more critical of me of the Slay acquisition. But where I am very critical of the organization is they're treating cornerback like it's quarterback. Like you only have one of them on the field, right? Like they have no plan on the roster besides Slay. And they had a 5'9" Avonte Maddox on a 6'5".
Well, if they were treating it like quarterback, Zach, they would have drafted someone in the second round.
Second round, true. On a 6'5" Allen Lazard. Matchup did not go well.
Lazard. Do you have Leaping Lizards growing up?
No. But there was I like that Seinfeld episode with Leaping Larry. You remember that one?
I remember the name. It's hard for me to picture the episode.
It was with the fire. It was with the fire truck, and he and Jerry's foot died, not died. His foot fell asleep, and Leaping Larry thought he was mocking him. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm sorry for that aside. Anyways, and not just that. When Slay goes down, their options at that point are Michael Jacquet, Nicole Roby-Coleman, and Graylin Arnold, because they were short-sighted or narrow-minded on cutdown day. Like Rasul Douglas is fine in the role that he was in, right? We've discussed
but they needed Alshon on the roster, Zach.
Yeah, so I'm very critical of how they've handled the cornerback position, because even when Slay was playing decently this year, and he's been bad he hasn't been good enough these past 2 weeks, the other cornerback spots have been problematic, and they completely overhauled their defense for Slay. And if you're going to do that, then like
He needs
Slay
to be better.
needs to be better in man-to-man. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the offensive line, Peters was getting killed in this game. Sayamalu, I thought, had a rough game. I actually thought that Driscoll and Mailata held up okay. What did you think just watching it live?
Yeah, watching it live, I thought Peters was more of the issue.
Yes, and of course he left this game in the second half
with a foot injury.
And nasty Nate Herbig is alive apparently and came in. All right, I know you want to get writing, Zach. I know.
No, I enjoy. Look, I've planned for this night, and I'm good.
We've got 4:00 games for the next 3.
Next 2 weeks, yeah.
Oof. I don't like a 4:20 game.
We're actually the next 3
25.
weeks. I'm sorry, the next 3 weeks, because we have it's the New Orleans game, the Arizona game, and the Dallas game are all at this time. It creates this weird no man's land for writing. Yeah,
not my favorite.
I
think we've done this before, but how would you rank the 5 different times for you to cover?
Sunday at 1,
Thursday, Monday, and then the 3.
Sunday at 1. Sunday at 1 is my absolute favorite.
I agree.
Love Sunday at 1. My second favorite is Thursday.
I agree.
Because you get the weekend there.
Yep.
Yeah, you get the weekend. Then I'll probably go Monday night.
I agree. You get Sunday.
Then Sunday at 4:25, and then Sunday night.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right.
But I always hope that the primetime games are home games, because the long day, like for the long day waiting in the other city sometimes can be you're focused on the game, right?
So I just want to get this on the record. You are pro-pandemic because all the games are home games.
I'm definitely not pro-pandemic. Definitely don't put that on the record. And I can't, as I've said, I can't wait until we're back on the road. I was actually I've said this before, Green Bay is the hardest place to get to. It's annoying getting there, but being in that stadium is always fun. So when they show the overhead of Lambeau, you miss being there. Although I thought that we don't get a lot of CBS games to.
This was a weird broadcast. It was bizarre how uninterested they were in Carson Wentz getting benched. It was crazy. They weren't talking about it. They weren't showing anything on the sideline. And
it was the opposite of the Monday night broadcast. When I watched the game back the other day, it was like the only thing they talked about on Monday night.
It was so bizarre.
Now
it was like my read on it was they with their discussions with Doug Peterson this week, maybe Peterson poo-pooed it, and so they were thinking that this was not going to happen, and they were unprepared for it, I guess.
No, I had a different read than you. I mean,
just think they didn't care?
Well, no, for us, obviously covering the Eagles, what's going on with the Eagles is paramount. I think from their perspective, probably going into the game, it's like the Eagles aren't good. Aaron Rodgers is he might be the MVP this year, right? So let's focus on Rodgers and the Packers.
You think so? I guess. Yeah.
Like that. To me,
they weren't even talking about the Packers at that point. They were talking about fromage.
Yeah, I think it was a very Packers oriented telecast, as it should be, right? The Packers are a Super Bowl contender. If you're tuning in to the national CBS slot, do you care about the 3-8-1 Eagles, or do you care about?
I think everybody cares about a quarterback controversy.
Yeah, and Hurts is a big name, so Hurts is it's interesting with Hurts too. And we haven't had the chance to talk to Hurts this season.
Yeah.
And so hopefully, if he does become the starter, we'll get a chance to get to know him a little better here. But he's lived through what
he's
Carson
been on the other
through.
side. That's exactly
and
right.
Not, but on the biggest stage of college football, he was benched at halftime of it. I'm fascinated to ask him what perspective he has that someone else doesn't. That someone who has
I
been in
got
that
bad news
position
for you
has.
that he's not going to give you a very good answer, but
We'll see.
I think the best news for listeners to this podcast about the Eagles turning the page to Jalen Hurts is that it sets the pieces in motion for an eventual Zach Berman, Nick Saban interview.
I don't think that's the best thing for our listeners.
I think it is.
I think there's our.
You're gonna have to make sure if you were doing a Zoom interview on that one, you keep it up.
Come on, Bo.
You do not let the.
Come on, Bo.
Do not let.
How
the
about
video
Bama
tilt
last
down.
night, though, man? How about Bama last night?
Yeah. That guy had like what, 5 touchdowns? 4
Devontae
touchdowns?
Smith.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Crazy one-handed grab at the end of the game. That was.
It's
LSU
funny,
went down
Zach.
quickly.
It's funny, Zach, that talking about Nick Saban and what he would do to you is what finally reminded me an hour into the podcast that we have some ad reads.
Yes. Sorry about that.
Or the fact that I messaged you.
You did?
I just did.
Oh, you just did?
Yeah.
You are right about that.
We don't have a Roman Reed.
I
So
know,
here you
but
go.
that is what, you know.
I will jump in here first. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is wishing you the happiest of holidays. And to kick off the season of giving, DraftKings has new promotions and odds boosts every day this week. Luckily for us sports fans, there is an abundance of action taking place this week. Football teams are in the hunt to secure their place in the playoffs while the college basketball season is just getting underway. There's no better place to get in on all the action. If you have not tried DraftKings Sportsbook yet, head to the App Store now because you don't want to miss this. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving all new players the chance to earn a sign-up bonus up to $1,000 when signing up using promo code TOSS, TOSS. DraftKings Sportsbook has endless ways for you to bet, from live betting to betting on your favorite players. They do it all. To celebrate this weekend's UFC 256, DraftKings is giving all MMA fans who sign up now the chance to triple their winnings when placing any bet on UFC 256. DraftKings is safe, reliable, and secure, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Just download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code TOSS, TOSS, when you sign up and get up to $1,000. That's code TOSS to get a deposit bonus up to $1,000 for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only, in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus. The deposit bonus requires 25 times playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problems, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Nice job on the quick part there.
Thank you.
We have a listener who says, I would rather ZB interview Nick Saban than the Eagles win a second Super Bowl. This episode, Zach, is also brought to you by Magic Spoon. Now, I would assume that our listeners all have spoons in their kitchens, but do they have any magic spoons? Magic Spoon is a delicious, healthy way to start your day. 0 sugar, 11 grams of protein, and only 3 net grams of carbs in each serving. Not carbs, carbohydrates. So many of you have asked, and now you can finally build your very own custom variety box. You can choose from the best-selling cocoa, not cacao nibs, but cocoa, fruity, frosted, and blueberry, plus 2 brand new flavors, which I have not yet tried, and I'm looking forward to trying. Peanut butter and cinnamon. That cinnamon, I feel like, is going to really hit the spot. It tastes amazing. Honestly, too good to be true. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, and GMO-free. Go to magicspoon.com/birds to build your own custom variety box and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code BIRDS at checkout to get free shipping. Magic Spoon is so confident in their product. This is a major, major flex. It's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. That's magicspoon.com/birds. Use the code BIRDS for free shipping. We thank Magic Spoon for sponsoring this podcast. Marissa,
Mhm.
How about the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, the Titans are not at 9 yet.
They're not there.
The
Marissa's
Brown
Titans.
Baker Mayfield's helping me out.
That's right. I feel like you must have sent him a message or something. He played inspired football
Yes.
to keep the Titans below their 8.5. Anything else from this game, Zach?
As I'm thinking through here, we addressed the offensive line. I don't think the defense had a particularly good showing, but I don't think they were the problem. Any coach? Oh, we should talk about Jake Elliott, by the way.
Look, chat has written a lot about him.
One of the worst contracts in football.
Look, this is 2 consecutive weeks that he's missed extra points. This one tonight could have been really costly, right? Like if they scored that touchdown when it was a 7-point game, but it could have been a 6-point game, they could have taken the lead there, right? So that could have been a particularly costly one. Now he did hit the 52-yard field goal earlier in the game, but look, 2 consecutive weeks with missed extra points. The field goal percentage is the lowest it's been in his career.
Signed to a contract when there was no need to.
They're not moving on from him. I can't imagine, right? So this is one of those things that they need Jake Elliott to get right. Jake Elliott stood out. We addressed Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor showed some juice on offense too. Like I think this was the best game Reagor played. Yeah. I thought they came out running. Like they came out doing what we thought. It was similar to the Browns game. It was like they used it all on the first drive, and then all right, enough of that.
They have their script, and then once the script is over, so much.
And
I thought Jordan Howard looked fantastic.
I mean, I didn't think Jordan Howard is the problem.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not gonna break that record for fewest yards per carry.
Yeah, I went back and read that, and I liked the Bell interview too. That was a good one.
Thanks. He's sleeping soundly tonight. Jalen Hurts is throwing an incompletion.
He's throwing an incompletion. I thought that what was I about? Oh yeah, so we concluded it was Tracy Wolfson as the
which I said from the beginning.
Yes,
yeah, she's like the best.
And I said that. What
she is?
What is wrong with you guys? Come on.
She's a Jersey girl too, so
she's great.
A good job.
Yeah, she's
a good job.
Incredible. She does basketball as well. Like
absolutely,
she's awesome.
I'm sure she would also definitely without a fuss wear a mask if she was broadcasting in California.
That's a reference to Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels, I assume.
I'll let the listeners think whatever they want about that.
Anyway, so when she was recapping what Doug Peterson told her at halftime in the same report where she mentioned that Doug said Carson needed to play better, she also said Doug thought he got away from the run a little too much. And it's like, how many times does Doug need to say this? It's every single week.
Well, yeah, but they're also to be fair, these are 3-and-out drives.
No, I'm not a run first guy. You know that, but I thought that, and I thought you did an outstanding job in the cheat sheet outlining what the Packers were going to do. There was a script that worked last year, right? And I thought it worked decently on that first drive, and then all of a sudden they just get away from it.
Yeah, because they're not a good team.
The other thing I want to say is at what point are we concerned about the way Miles Sanders is playing?
He's a running back. You've got 2 more years on his rookie deal, and then he's going to be gone. So I'm not that concerned. I don't think.
Yeah, but you need to get you need to get high level production in year 2. In year 2 from
I think he'll be better next year than he is this year. I think that's
how bad is that 2019 draft class in high? JJ inactive again. We should also talk about Jannard Avery inactive, healthy scratch.
Good trade.
That's your 4th round pick this year. Sharif Miller, he can't even last on the practice squad.
Didn't he take a shot at the organization on Twitter?
Yeah, he did. Then they cut Clayton Thorson. Andre Dillard. Yeah, so really all they have to show for right now is Miles Sanders, and Miles is in a bit of a slump here. So that's bad. And then so I'll say this, obviously, No, I don't like the pandemic. I hate the pandemic. This is horrible. Okay. But one residual, like I guess one of the unintended consequences is that we're able to watch more football, right? Because typically we would be in Lambeau Field's press box here. Okay. Today. Instead, I'm in front of my television waiting for the game to start and you have football on. Every time
owns a television flex. Okay.
Yes, it owns a television. I'll admit to that. And you see Justin Jefferson.
Big spender.
Justin Jefferson make plays, right? Every week. Over 1,000 yards already. Just
it's got a chance to be the rookie receiving leader.
Yeah.
Since the merger.
All time. Yeah. So that's looking like this year's draft is looking, although who knows, maybe Jalen Hurts comes in and saves it, right? But Jack Driscoll looked okay, I guess. Davion Taylor went out with a knee injury tonight, so we'll see,
that was a big blow to the defense.
Actually, I'm giving Tracy Wolfson a lot of airtime tonight, but again, we're not usually watching the games live. We're usually there. She said, I think it was one of her first reports. It was Davion Taylor's in the blue tent. And I'm like, if you're watching this from a national audience, you must think that's really consequential, right? And it's not very consequential for the Eagles.
What do you think are the odds, Zach, out of 100 turkeys, that Carson Wentz has started his last game for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Out of 100 turkeys, what are the odds? I'd say 30.
Wow, I was thinking 32.
Okay. Great minds.
I mean,
mediocre minds.
Mediocre minds, yeah. Although educated minds, as you said before.
By the way,
I think that's about right.
I don't have the chat in front of me throughout. It's been like during Bo's ad or when Marissa was this is gonna sound like I'm throwing Marissa under the bus. I like hearing Marissa's comments, but when Marissa was talking about the smoothie earlier, I checked out.
This is the funniest. This is the most Marissa's laughed in a while.
I checked out the comments as I was saying that. It made it sound like I don't care about what Marissa's saying. That's not the case at all. But I was checking out the comments because I wasn't being asked a question, right? Like when you direct the question to Marissa, you're not directing the question to me. So right. I was checking out the comments, and I saw that when I was making the point about the way Wentz is viewed around the league is different than in Philadelphia. I didn't mean that to mean like Philly's anti-Wentz, or
you're saying that you've talked to people throughout the league, and that's what you're hearing.
Just that, like, they don't think Wentz is the problem. They think that the organization's the problem. They
Correct.
think some of the other things are the problems. And
I would say the same.
And maybe the fans think the same. But I do think there was a sentiment that, like, they've seen enough from Wentz. And I obviously haven't polled every fan. I can't speak for fans, and I can't speak for what's in the chat either. I would need to go through it. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think there was a degree of like, oh, they finally changed quarterbacks today.
Yeah, definitely. And just because we said this before, but just because Carson Wentz is not the the number one driving reason behind the team being, what are they, 3-8-1, doesn't mean that like it was instructive to see the offense look a lot better with someone else at quarterback. Like Carson Wentz is a big part of it, and I'm sort of tired of people making excuses for him. He's been really bad.
I agree.
Got to see something else. So
I agree. So a little just like how the sausage is made here. We can't end the show with the ad, so that's why it might have seemed like
correct. You can't do the last. It can't be the last 10% of the episode.
Yeah. So if it seems like we gotta reaching for straws here, just a little bit. Yeah, bringing up different Tracy Wilson reports, it was because we.
And the extra how the sausage is made there is that when we do the live YouTube, we have to do them live. Whereas if we had forgotten to do them, if we were recording separately, we could have recorded them after the fact, zipped them back in there through Marissa's magic spoon work. But no, Got to do it this way. So
Yes.
We just want all the listeners to get to Magic Spoon and check out DraftKings, obviously.
Well said. Exactly.
that's
mean,
right.
So
Do you think we made it? Do you think we extended the 10%?
I think we're good.
Okay.
You know,
Because I got a lot of writing in front of me, so if we can be good. That'd be good. You
I
have a
mean,
lot
in
of
that
writing,
case,
too.
we should probably
Yeah.
go a little longer.
I think that's right.
You could
All
just
right.
start writing while I talk because we know you.
Yeah, he's not paying attention.
That's
We
not
need
true.
to-
That's not.
I'll just
Honestly,
ask
like,
Marissa some questions, Zach, and you can really get started.
I'm not going to go through the chat again when Marissa talks. Like, I
I'm
will be.
kidding.
Friday's podcast, when we do the YouTube, I send in, and people see that, like you see the that Friday column comes out like during the pod or right after the pod. So I'm corresponding with Pete. I don't usually get to check out the comments. I was checking out the comments today. It was definitely not in the front to you, Marissa.
I totally know that, Zach. They're very good comments, so you should check them out after you finish writing tonight. But we'll let you go right.
Appreciate it. I
And-
don't have to name kickers either. So
How many turkeys do you think Wentz is the starter next week?
you're asking me? I thought you were asking Marissa because all right. You asked me about the turkeys earlier that Wentz never starts a game.
Yeah.
I think 15%.
15. I think it's higher than that. I think it's up to like 40.
Really? No, I think if they were going with Wentz, they would have announced it after the game. They would have made it clear. They wouldn't have created this injury unless, as I said, unless it's not just Doug's decision.
The funniest possible side plot would be if this is Doug just throwing a public monkey wrench into the organization as an agent of chaos.
yeah,
Like,
maybe
he's
so.
like, you're gonna fire me? I'm gonna bench your quarterback.
Yeah, but I still, if you were saying how many turkeys is Carson Wentz your week 1 starter next year, I would go like 60 or 70 on that.
Well, yeah,
And maybe that changes.
you
Again,
went 30 on he's played he's started his last game. So
yeah, so then deductive reasoning, I should do 70, right? Because yeah.
well, yeah, but
because
not
he's gonna be
necessarily
good.
because there are other paths where he's not the week 1 starter, but
True.
he still
true,
starts
true,
another game,
True.
or he starts another game this year. You know, Jalen Hurts gets hurt, really drives his name home. Possible. Okay. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Birds with Friends. The honeymoon Carson Wentz era is dead, or just dead. No, is for Birds with Friends listeners. And we'll see what happens after this. We'll be back on Wednesday, at which point, presumably, we will have some better idea of who the Eagles quarterback is going to be next Sunday when they play the New Orleans Saints. And for Zach and Sheil and Marissa, I'm Bo. And as always, love hurts.